To understand the story of UBS, we must first travel back in time to the mid-19th century, when the Swiss banking industry was still in its infancy. The foundations of UBS can be traced back to two separate banks, the Bank in Winterthur and the Toggenburger Bank. Founded in 1854 and 1863 respectively, these two banks paved the way for the future Swiss banking giant. In 1912, the Bank in Winterthur and Toggenburger Bank merged with several other Swiss banks to form the Swiss Bank Corporation, or SBC. This newly established corporation focused on international trade and investment, setting the stage for its future global influence. However, it wasn't until 1930 that the Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS, was established through a merger between the Bank of Winterthur and Toggenburger Bank. Over the years, UBS continued to grow and expand its services to cater to a wider range of clients. The 1960s and 1970s saw the bank expand into Europe, Asia, and the Americas, solidifying its place as a global player in the banking industry. The 1980s and 1990s were a pivotal period for UBS, as the bank underwent significant transformations that would shape its future. In 1998, UBS merged with the Swiss Bank Corporation, forming what we know today as UBS AG. This merger turned the bank into a true global powerhouse, with a strong presence in wealth management, investment banking, and asset management. One of the first major scandals to hit UBS was in 1996, when it was revealed that the bank had secretly held dormant accounts belonging to Holocaust victims. Investigations uncovered that Swiss banks were secretly holding onto assets deposited by Jews fleeing Nazi persecution. As the Nazis invaded countries across Europe, many Jewish families transferred their wealth to Swiss banks, hoping to protect their assets from seizure. However, after the war, Swiss banks made it nearly impossible for Holocaust survivors and their families to access these accounts. Banks required a death certificate to release the funds, which, as you can imagine, was impossible for most victims to produce given the horrific circumstances surrounding the Holocaust. As a result, these dormant accounts, containing millions of dollars, went unclaimed for decades. The revelation of these dormant accounts ignited a firestorm of criticism and legal action against Swiss banks, including UBS. Investigations led by the U.S. government, the World Jewish Congress, and other organizations revealed that not only did UBS and other Swiss banks knowingly withhold the assets of Holocaust victims, but they also destroyed records and engaged in other actions to cover up their actions. Under mounting pressure from both the public and international governments, UBS and other Swiss banks agreed to a historic $1.25 billion settlement in 1998. This settlement aimed to compensate Holocaust survivors and their families for the assets that were wrongfully withheld. The scandal dealt a significant blow to the reputation of Swiss banks and exposed the darker side of Swiss banking secrecy, which had long been considered a hallmark of the Swiss banking system. This scandal also led to significant changes in the Swiss banking industry, including increased transparency and a push towards greater accountability. The Swiss government enacted new laws to protect against future abuses, and banks implemented stricter guidelines for handling dormant accounts. While the scandal will forever be a black mark on the history of UBS and the Swiss banking system, it did serve as a catalyst for change and heightened awareness of the importance of financial transparency and accountability. Then, in the early 2000s, UBS found itself in the crosshairs of the US government once again. This time, it was due to the bank's role in helping wealthy Americans evade taxes through secret offshore accounts. The UBS tax evasion scandal began when Bradley Birkenfeld, a former UBS banker, decided to blow the whistle on the bank's illegal activities. Birkenfeld provided the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, and the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, with detailed information about how UBS had helped its American clients evade taxes by setting up secret offshore accounts. According to Birkenfeld and subsequent investigations, UBS had established a complex network of shell companies and trusts in tax havens like Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and the British Virgin Islands. Wealthy American clients could then funnel their money through these entities, effectively hiding their assets from the IRS and evading taxes on the interest and capital gains generated by these funds. UBS was even accused of providing clients with encrypted laptops and untraceable prepaid cell phones to facilitate secret communications and transactions. The scale of the operation was staggering. At its peak, it was estimated that UBS had helped over 19,000 U.S. clients hide more than $20 billion in assets from the U.S. government. As the investigation unfolded, UBS was forced to admit to its wrongdoing and cooperate with U.S. authorities. In 2009, UBS reached a deferred prosecution agreement with the U.S. government, agreeing to pay a $780 million fine, disclose the names of over 4,000 U.S. clients, and cease providing banking services to American clients through its Swiss-based private bank. This marked a significant turning point in the history of Swiss banking secrecy, and it was the first time a Swiss bank had been forced to disclose client information to a foreign government. The UBS tax evasion scandal had far-reaching consequences, not only for the bank itself, but also for the entire Swiss banking industry. Following the UBS case, the U.S. government pursued similar investigations against other Swiss banks, leading to a crackdown on tax evasion and the erosion of Swiss banking secrecy laws. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, the 2008 financial crisis hit the global economy, and UBS was not immune to its devastating effects. At the heart of the crisis were toxic mortgage-backed securities, which were financial instruments created by bundling and repackaging subprime mortgages. These securities were then sold to investors who were often unaware of the high-risk nature of the underlying assets. UBS, like many other major banks, had heavily invested in these mortgage-backed securities. As the U.S. housing market began to collapse and the value of these securities plummeted, UBS was left holding billions of dollars in toxic assets. The bank's substantial losses not only threatened its financial stability, but also had far-reaching implications for the Swiss economy. In October 2008, the Swiss government announced a massive bailout package to stabilize UBS and prevent a potential collapse. The bailout package consisted of two primary components. Number one, a capital injection of around $6 billion in the form of mandatory convertible notes, which would convert into UBS shares at a later date, effectively giving the Swiss government a 9% stake in the bank. Number two, the creation of a $54 billion fund called the Stabilization Fund, designed to take on the toxic assets from UBS's balance sheet. This fund was financed by the Swiss National Bank, which provided a loan to UBS, while the bank contributed around $6 billion in equity. The Swiss government's intervention was unprecedented in its scale and represented a dramatic shift in the traditionally hands-off approach to the banking sector. This bailout was viewed as essential not only to protect UBS, but also to safeguard the stability of the Swiss economy, which is heavily reliant on its banking industry. The bailout came with strings attached, however. UBS was required to implement significant changes to its business practices, corporate governance, and risk management. The bank's top executives were also replaced, and the company embarked on a massive restructuring program to cut costs, reduce risk, and streamline its operations. In the years following the bailout, UBS managed to recover from the crisis, repay the Swiss government's capital injection, and re-establish itself as a leading global bank. However, the fallout from the crisis and the accompanying scandals had a lasting impact on the bank's reputation and its approach to risk management. However, the hits kept on coming for UBS. In 2011, the bank was embroiled in yet another scandal when a rogue trader, Kweku Adeboli, lost a staggering $2.3 billion in unauthorized trades. Adeboli, a Ghanaian-born British national, joined UBS in 2003 and eventually became a trader at the bank's London office. He specialized in exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, and was part of the global synthetic equities trading team. What started as a series of small, unauthorized trades quickly spiraled out of control as Adebole became more and more emboldened in his attempts to conceal his mounting losses. He managed to evade UBS's risk management systems and internal controls by creating fictitious trades and using an unauthorized slush fund to cover his tracks. This allowed him to continue trading and accumulating losses for years before being discovered. In September 2011, Adebole's scheme finally unraveled when an accountant at UBS noticed discrepancies in his trading. This prompted an internal investigation that led to the discovery of the staggering $2.3 billion loss. Adebole was arrested and charged with fraud and false accounting. During his trial, he claimed that he had acted out of a desire to make profits for the bank and that his managers had turned a blind eye to his unauthorized trading. Despite his claims, Adebole was found guilty and sentenced to 7 years in prison in 2012. The rogue trading scandal had a significant impact on UBS, leading to the resignation of the bank's CEO, Oswald Grubel, and causing serious damage to the bank's reputation. It also exposed flaws in UBS's risk management practices and internal controls, prompting the bank to undertake a comprehensive review of its systems and procedures to prevent future rogue trading incidents. Despite these numerous scandals and controversies, UBS has managed to remain one of the most influential banks in the world. Today, the bank focuses primarily on wealth management, investment banking, and asset management, with a strong emphasis on serving high net worth individuals and institutional clients. In recent years, UBS has taken significant steps to improve its corporate governance and risk management practices. The bank has also doubled down on its commitment to sustainable investing, launching several initiatives to promote responsible investment and support the transition to a low-carbon economy. So, what does the future hold for UBS? While it's impossible to predict with certainty, it's clear that the bank will continue to play a significant role in the global financial landscape. As the bank navigates an ever-changing economic environment and the ongoing challenges of digital disruption, one thing is for sure: UBS will continue to make headlines for better or for worse.